Hi, I'm Randy Hollenbeck, and this is the Music Roundtable. Tonight on the show, we have Z and Berg from Pittsburgh Metal Band Reign of Z. Tell us a little bit about your band and what you have going on. What have you been doing during the lockdown?
Well, basically what we were allowed to do. So obviously for the first couple months when it was extremely strict, we really didn't see much of each other. So we decided that, oh my goodness, we decided that the best thing that we could do was start to write. So we're working on um, an EP, but we're going to release it as singles. So probably about 6 months into the pandemic, we realized that it was safe enough for us to all get together and start writing music. And Blink actually started diligently going to a producer named Sid Riggs, and he started working with him a couple days a week actually.
Yeah.
Demoed some stuff out for our producers up in New York, Steve Sobchak and Justin Spalding, and our engineer Cole. Um, so we started kind of working back and forth since New York was completely shut down, and as soon as we were set to go there, the band was set. So we kind of did everything via computer.
Yeah, cloud drops and things like that, Dropbox, and just going from there, trying to build the best possible product we could.
Unfortunately, everybody always interviews us in a spot where we can't say anything. So we have a lot of announcements coming, but contractually we can't say anything. So all I can say is please tune into all of our socials, and as we are allowed to say things, you guys will get updated. So that's but it's a lot of exciting stuff. We're taking a lot of bigger steps and we're super excited. Like tours are on the horizon, and we are actually I don't know when this is going to be airing, but next weekend we're playing with Mark Rizzo, who was the guitar player of Soulfly. um, we're doing a couple dates with him next weekend on his tour, so that's exciting.
You just completed the song. Do you know when that would be released?
That's
Right,
a you question.
right now we're actually going back and forth with our videographer, trying to get a video shot and everything to roll out with the single. So right now we're probably looking about we're hoping May June to get something out.
We still are going to have to make arrangements to probably go up and meet him and shoot it, and then he has to obviously edit it and then create teasers and stuff like that. So we we just have a lot in the works. Like I said, we just
Can't
can't
talk about
say anything. I always feel like the Secret Service or like the FBI, because everybody's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Stop." So
We're doing
we're
things.
doing things.
Let's get into some history of the band. When did that occur? How did it happen?
So when the band I was in previously basically went our separate ways, I kind of had it with my hometown, and I packed up my suitcase and I was heading back out to Los Angeles. And the drummer at the time, I actually met her through
She came to your
she
CD release
yeah,
show.
she came to my CD release party with my band prior, and that's how we connected. and she was in the process of moving out of a project, and she said, give me 2 weeks to get you a band. And I said, you have 2 weeks or I'm setting foot on this plane, and I'm not looking back. So I actually met him and Old Lords in West Virginia with my old band. He actually, I don't think you were there to see us play necessarily, but you were at that show.
I was out for the night.
He was out for the night. And I met him, and Blink was with you, right?
Oh yeah.
Was Nick?
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
I can't remember.
So I met them previously, because when you're playing, when you start out and you're playing your hometown, you all kind of start to connect. And I was actually a couple years later at an Old Lord show, and we reconnected and just talked. And then our old drummer worked with him, and she was like, oh, he's going to play bass with you, and he's bringing a guitar player.
No clue. No clue.
I was like,
No clue
okay.
until I was like, hey, why don't you come and do this? And I'm like, well, I'm not doing anything this weekend, so okay.
And she brought in our former guitar player as well, so she kind of aligned the whole band essentially. Like, I guess she was very determined to keep me in our hometown, so that's kind of how we were born, essentially. But no, there was no Craigslist ad. It was just literally like word of mouth. I kind of gave Craigslist and those kind of platforms a rest, because I was hitting a lot of walls with them, and they just personally weren't working for me at the time.
When you connected as a band, did you have like a vision, or did you say, I want this sound for the band?
Wow,
we just kind of, you know, the two guitar players at the time just kind of worked back and forth, and we kind of just build something. You know, we obviously wanted to, you know, you want to have big choruses, you know, with her voice and everything. Like, we wanted to write, you know, something that was appealing to everybody in the metal, you know. It was one of those things, but, you know, like, we kind of just got together and jammed, and what we came up with really started to take with people, and we started working with Tim from
Blame Shift.
He kind of helped develop us. You know, we decided, like, hey, if we're gonna do this, let's do this right.
And then we moved on to Rotted Brain, and we've moved on to people we can't say. but like they will announce it on their page, and then we'll share it. But for me, I always had a vision. Like, I always wanted, I mean, this is the only thing I ever wanted to do. So, and as far as like musical influences, like, I mean, Evanescence is huge, and this moment is huge. Marilyn Manson, before he was canceled, was huge. And I'm trying to think who else in my library off the top of my head. And like a lot of like theatrics, like a lot of musical theater stuff was very like influential for me. And so I wanted to kind of find a way to mash that into our world, basically, and keep everybody happy. We kind of wanted to, everybody in the group was so diverse with their music influences, and we kind of wanted to like absorb them into this like amoeba to like create something that everybody would hopefully be happy with.
Berg, what was the first song you learned how to play?
Man, that's rough. That's really rough. I mean, like, I definitely learned a lot of hate to say it, but I definitely learned a lot of Chili Pepper stuff being a bass player. So, you know, learned some Sabbath back in the day. First song, I'd probably have to say Enter Sandman is what I learned by Metallica. I mean, easy bass line. Sorry, this dog is just snoring away
So
over here.
loud.
She doesn't really do much, man. She eats, sleeps, runs around the house for 5 minutes,
And then she
sleeps.
passes out. She lives a very hard life. Wish I had her life. But
Legions that touch me, no one to save me. I'm unprotected from the swarm of unaffected. I won't back down, I won't give in.
So you would say your influence on bass was Flea then?
Yeah, a little bit there. This it's such a loaded question because I listen to everything. You know, Cliff Burton, hell of a fingers player. You know what I mean? I could sit here and just ramble off the greats. You know what I mean? But a lot of the stuff. I mean, I am a percussion slash fingers player, so a lot of that comes from those people that use that style. It's hard to just say, yeah, this was one person that I was like, oh, I'm gonna learn everything in their catalog. No, and then some of it was learning covers because back then you're playing in garage bands, learning top whatever, playing it with your friends, getting through it, you know, and then it just grows from there. Honestly, Blank and myself and Nick have been playing music together for 20 years. You know, we've been going since early 2000s, playing speed metal, whatever you want to call it, like brocore, I think they called it at one time, with beatdowns and
That's
stuff like
fitting.
that. That's a fair assessment.
That's fitting for you.
But where you wore gym shorts on stage because it was a workout. But yeah, the three of us, we've been touring extensively, playing shows together for 20 years, and you never just kind of. I never took, you never go like, oh, okay, well, this is my influence, so I'm going to write like that. No, you kind of just go in and say, okay, what are you on today? What are we going to play? So, yeah, it's been an interesting journey to say the least.
Z, did you have any voice lessons while you were growing up to make you decide you wanted to become a singer?
Well, yeah, I'm actually still in voice lessons. I always tell people, like, when you're a vocalist, you're an athlete and you have to take care of yourself. So I go to voice lessons once a week. Um, and he taught me to do everything that I do vocally. And growing up, don't make fun of me. I was really like heavy into musical theater. I was in musical theater from three. I graduated at the time in 2009. It was one of the top colleges, well now it's universities, in the country for musical theater and dance. And I've been performing my whole life, but what really like took me back, I hate to be cliche, but in high school, Evanescence was huge for me because she was operatic and she wasn't like she didn't dress like very provocatively. She was just very authentic, and like a little 16-year-old me was like, oh my god, she at the time, like, she sounds like kind of like me. Like, this is really cool. Maybe, you know, it can open the floodgates. And I really think that it did, and it has flourished ever since. So, I hate to say it, but like Amy Lee was tremendous for me. And then, I saw Maria Brink on, was it Ozfest, I want to say? And they were on like some side stage and nobody was paying attention to them. And I was like, this is amazing. And like, I know a lot of people come at them for their theatrics and stuff, but I'm like, man, if we had a budget, watch out.
I'm not building sets every night.
You don't have to. They have a road crew for that. So I always thought that that would be cool to like fuse those worlds together, and she's really done that. I think very successfully. So I all of that together, I think is super cool.
Berg, did you ever take any bass lessons or were you self taught from like guitar magazines?
No, I mean, I was basically self-taught. In my hometown, my parents, whenever I was like, yeah, yeah, some friends were like, yeah, I want to play. I dabbled in a little guitar, but I started playing bass. My parents actually bought me some. I can't even remember. It was some Russian bass. I can't even remember the name of it. It's been so long. They're like, if you stick with it for 6 months to a year, we'll get you a better guitar. So I had to stick with it. They signed me up for lessons, and well, we didn't know, but the guy that they signed up was a junkie, and right about halfway through one of my lessons, whenever I was 13 years old, he just conked out. And after that, my parents were like, "No, you're not going back." So I just basically sat in my room and just played, and would print out sheet music or print out music and just learn by playing along. So basically self-taught for the most of it.
Z, you went to college for music. Were you performing with bands before that, or did you wait until you got out of college?
No, I actually started in high school. There's actually, it's so funny. There's so many people now from my high school friending me, which is so ironic because, like, I was so heavily bullied in high school. It's like half the people who bullied me were like friending me now. It's a true story. And the reason why I broached that topic is because in our yearbook, there's a picture of us, my band, playing outside of the library in high school, and that's where like the first like big band, like we started actually getting some recognition. It was very controversial at the time. Like they did not want us to play. They did not want rock music. It was like the time a little bit after when Columbine happened, and like I was the goth chick, and they did not want any parts of that. But I actually had a music teacher at the time, who I'm friends with on Facebook, and she was my advocate. And she's like, "Listen, they're good kids. They don't bother anybody." And they obviously let us play. And since then, I've been in bands. Even when I was in college, I was in bands. I mean, that was always like my passion because musical theater was just such a linear platform to basically break into, if you will.
Any wild tour stories?
One that like you can tell that you won't get into serious trouble. Tell them the samurai one.
Oh,
That's a
so
good one.
we were out Indiana back in the day. This is not Rain of Z. This is probably about 15 years, 15, 18 years, something like that. And we go into this hippie store, and this guy's like, "Oh, I got better stuff in the back." So he has this arrangement of samurai swords, brass knuckles, knives, everything. So back then we're like, "Hell yeah, let's buy a couple boxes of brass knuckles." We sold them with our merch at shows. So we're driving down the road. Meanwhile, we were hometown. We bought a van for $1,000. It was an old bakery van, had no windows on the side of it. Traveling down the road, our singer got cut off by this yeehaw guy. We're driving this truck loaded with stuff. They run him off the road. They go to get out. They think there's just two guys in the car. Well, there's three more in the back of the van, and our guitar player now jumps out wielding a samurai sword. I've never seen two guys run to a truck so fast in my entire life. I mean, of course, there's times that we were almost jumped, and yeah, that was a fun night. Sitting outside a hotel, waiting for him to come back. Can't finish that story because.
Twists and turns, bewildered, betrayals burn until stuck in my head.
Let's talk about the slot that you had on Van's Warp Tour.
Oh,
That was like
Vans Warped
super
Tour.
tame.
Vans Warped Tour was probably one of the. It was a highlight. We'll
It was
say.
exhausting.
Um, it was go from the time we woke up,
We
getting
didn't
to
sleep.
the arena. We barely slept driving to New Jersey. Um,
Blink quit that day.
I mean, literally, they upgraded our stage from. Usually they have like all the stages on those trailer stages.
Yeah, like tiny stages.
Pop up.
No, not us.
No, they upgraded us to the amphitheater, and we're like, okay.
Blink
this is-
looked at it. He goes, "I quit."
He just
I'm
goes,
like,
I quit. I
I'm
go,
like, no, no,
"Oh,
no.
get
Get your ass.
But it was interesting to go from like taking taking your normal, you're used to mid-sized clubs, things like
I
that,
had a
mid, large.
makeup artist in a dressing room. Like I never get. I always do. I
Me
was
too.
like,
My eyelashes were beautiful.
they were
that day.
beautiful that day. Your beard
But
was very majestic. But no, honestly, like we're not used to that kind of treatment. So like even when I went to the sound guy, he's like, I'm gonna take your microphone. I'm like, why are you taking my microphone? He's like, oh, I'm gonna get your levels ready and like hand it to you when you perform. I'm like, what? Are you
but
serious?
yeah, they're like,
Yeah,
yeah, they're like,
just
you
not
get no
used to it.
sound check. So I'm like, okay, why is my wireless cutting out? Oh, adjusting it from 50 feet to 100 feet. You don't think about those things because you're used to a certain thing. But it was definitely a very cool experience.
Very cool.
Um,
We got to see some of our heroes that we listened to growing up, like Hate Breed was there, Simple Plan was there,
every time I die.
Every Time I Die was there, Motionless in White was there. I'm trying to think who else. Machine Gun Kelly, before he really blew up, was there, which was kind of cool.
But it was interesting because like you literally had to make flyers on the whim to
Mm-hmm.
hand out to people as they were coming in the gate because people, you want to give them something to get them to your performance. Um,
So we
you
we
know,
really had to work.
I mean,
It
it was
wasn't just
work the whole
performing.
time. It was like use what you can. Gear. We were lucky that one of the bands that we were playing with were like, yeah, you know what? Let's save on breakdown times. We did some gear splitting. Everything's mic'd anyway, so what's it matter?
Nick had an aneurysm when we basically parked next to Twisted's tour bus.
Yeah, our drummer's a juggalo, so
So
you know.
interesting.
He was like, "Oh my god, they're right there." I'm like, "Go talk to him."
He's like, no.
You're
So I had to
literally.
go over and talk to him. Like, Mr. Twisted, sir, our drummer really
Alright,
likes you. We're not being weird, I promise, even though this is probably really awkward.
So you played a show at the Whiskey. How did that happen? Were you invited there, or
It was kind of both, I think.
We were the opportunity was presented to us through a mutual friend, and the band that we were invited to go out to play with, their bass player housed us at his house.
Super nice.
We flew
Big
out.
shout out to Merle.
Yeah, we flew out a week, about 5 days before. We just kind of made a nice trip out of that. My brother
Yeah.
got married literally the night before.
He was on a plane the
I
next
was on
day.
the plane like 6 hours later.
you guys tour and travel a lot?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, we definitely try to. We were in the whole like 13 passenger vans, things like that. And it's just like no, the opportunity came up that we could get this bus, and we were like,
We have Blame Shift's old tour bus, basically.
yeah,
So when we got the opportunity to buy it, as you get older, you want to be more comfortable. I
and
mean,
it's a safe space.
and it's safe. I can get changed in there if I'm tired. Any one of us can just go and take a nap and shut all the curtains. Like it's really like kind of like an RV.
Yeah, it's like a nice safe space.
What are you currently listening to as far as new music?
Uh, nope. I'm definitely listening to Evanescence new album, The Bitter Truth.
New Body Count's really good.
New Body Count's really good. Day to Remember's new album just dropped. So I'm listening to them. Berg and I listen to Beartooth a lot. Um, yeah, Architects. Um, The Haunt. I really like them. They're kind of interesting. Okay, so I'm gonna spell it. It's Ovtlier. And our producer just worked with this band. They're being spun on Octane right now, but it's really good. I really like them. So that's kind of like what I've been jamming on lately. You? You just pretty much listen to whatever I put on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's five.
That and old school rap.
Yeah, Berg listens to a lot of old school rap.
I wear tracksuits now. 2020 really put me into the
He
whole
wears
tracksuit thing.
tracksuits and gold chains, and I just let him live his life.
What you have next is a single you'll be releasing in like 3 or 4 months.
maybe less than that.
Hopefully less. Like we got to see obviously like the restrictions and where we're allowed to travel, but we can tell you the title. It's called Ignite. Um, that's the name of the song. It's called Ignite. We can definitely tell you that. We worked with Sid Riggs, who's in Pittsburgh, and also Steve Sobchak. He just um, worked with Ice Nine Kills on, I think, Spencer's new single. He's worked with Motionless in White. That other band I had to spell. I am so sorry if they ever watch this podcast. I will learn your name and not sound like a jackass. And then Justin Spalding, who's kind of like Steve's kind of partner,
Right hand.
right hand man. He does all of our cool like electronic stuff on our stuff. He's kind of a whiz with that. So we call him Uncle Jetty.
Yeah.
And Cole, like I said, was our engineer on this. So we were really lucky to have the whole team. She's just snoring. You just gotta ignore her. She's just gonna snore.
So
Are you able to talk about the single? Like, what's the inspiration behind it?
Do you want to handle that one? Because I don't want to get in trouble.
I need you to paraphrase that one, and
No, tell them the joke that you
let's put it this way. Let's put it this way, man. Randy, I'll tell you, my goal is to never have her write a song about me. That's all I'm saying. That's the joke I say. Like my goal is whole time, dear. Please don't ever write a song about me.
art mimics life. Life mimics art.
Racing through my veins like no other.
So, what you're saying, the song isn't about you?
Ignite is not about him. We'll
No.
just clear. No, it is absolutely not about him. Um, Ignite. I'll say this, so I don't get in trouble and we don't have to get lawyers involved. Um, Ignite, I hope, is an anthem for people who have been really burned or really hurt by somebody, whatever that may look like, whether it's family, best friend, relationship, neighbors.
Guinea pig.
No, a guinea pig would never hurt you. They're
Salt
adorable.
and
Leave
burn
the
house
animals.
down
No, leave the animals out of this. But like, basically that's my hope is like all that anger and all that rage that you carry around and like fester. You put that track on and you're like, yes, yes, and it just pumps you up and it makes you feel better. Like now that I recorded it, like all of my rage and anger, I'm like, I've become like a.
You're Zen like.
I'm so zen now. Well, I always tell people if you ever want to know my inner dark secrets, just listen to our music. Like it's all literally right in black and white in front of people's faces. But like I refuse to not write about stuff that like I haven't personally experienced. Like we do have like Steve does help me shape the narrative, but like it all still at the end of the day it comes from me. Like nobody sits there and like legitimately writes my lyrics. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Because then it's more authentic.
Yes. I can't perform it if I can't connect to it.
Yeah.
So he really helps me to kind of chisel it, if you will. Because I have like all these thoughts and feelings and I'm very explosive and I'm like, here's all of my things and he's like, okay, this is a lot. Let's just kind of
We're just gonna.
whittle this down a lot and I'm like, okay. So That's my hope for it. It's mean. It's really mean. I promise you, I'm nice when I want to be. It's pretty mean. You have to admit, it's pretty
As
mean.
long as you're fed.
I'm fed.
So you basically have everything wrote down for the song, and you go in with this other guy, and he helps you clean it up.
Well, pre-COVID, Steven, so basically I'll just write whenever I feel inspired. Like I have a notebook that I constantly carry around with me and just jot. But Steve and I would normally sit in a room and go back and forth with like a thesaurus or like my book and would pull things. But obviously with COVID, I couldn't do that. So like I would track something, send it to him, he'd give me feedback, I'd retrack it, send it to him until he felt like we were kind of in that pocket, if you will. So the processes were really different pre-COVID versus, obviously COVID now.
And it's nice to actually have something that's 99.9% there. Have something to look forward to, All of COVID, having that drug of performing taken away from you.
I was just devastated.
Like even at we all have to. I work a job, and one of the guys I work with was like, "Oh, you're going back to playing shows," and I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Thank God."
He's like, you're an asshole.
He called me an asshole. He's like, "You're literally an asshole. You tell people too much how it is," and I'm like, "Deal with it. I don't have a release."
When you did it this time, was it less stressful not being in the same room and being on the time limit? Um, did you feel like you had more time without a deadline?
Here's the problem with this song is I looked like Rain Man because my whole room had lyrics taped to the wall. And I kept rewriting it and rewriting it and rewriting it because I became like Freddie Mercury. I wasn't satisfied. And I was like, well, what can I do to make it meaner? What can I do to make it more aggressive? Like, what can I do to. I had to sit with these emotions for like a year and a half. And I tell anybody who feels anything negative or hurt and you don't have an outlet for it, you just fester. So, like, I had no outlet to get all these big emotions out. So, like, literally, like, people would walk into the room and I looked like Jim Carrey from the movie 27, where people were like, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm just working through some things right now. So actually, I like being there with Steve one on one in person. He makes me feel really comfortable versus going back and forth because I get too in my head with stuff, and he'll tell you like I can't listen to recordings of myself because I'm my own worst critic. Like I'll tell
Oh,
Berg, I'm
Lord.
like, you have to tell me if it's good or not because I'll just want to keep redoing it. So I have to really step out of it. So it's nice to have that individual in the room to to connect versus like me being in my home on my own in my head. And I had no job this year. On top of that, I lost my day my day gig due to the pandemic. So then I was really like a crazy person. He had a lot of fun with that. He was very excited. He really enjoyed dealing with.
When do you think we will hear some kind of announcement?
What did Jeff say? Hopefully next week or the week after. He's right now on tour with Flaw. So usually when he's on his runs with his bands, like we can't get a hold of him because he's working. But he'll probably hopefully next week or the week after. Like I said, we'll all share it to our pages. Like we'll make the announcement, but we're definitely teaming up with like some bigger bands, and we're really excited, to have the opportunity to share the road with them.
Are you doing a package tour kind of thing?
Yeah, um, for the most part. But yeah, we're just waiting for all the pieces to be lined up before we can go. Here it is. But it's nice to actually see things like that being booked, you know, and people and places actually opening back up. Texas basically giving everybody the finger, saying, "Hey, we're open. The heck with you." Ohio starting to open back up. West Virginia, I think they're getting rid of the mask policy here shortly. Um,
Especially a lot of people getting vaccinated now. I think people are starting to be a little bit more lenient. We do have a show in Pittsburgh,
yes,
and on August 5th with a band from New York called Wild Street and a local band named Aqua Dementia. So we will be in Pittsburgh for that night only as of right now. We can say that show. So and
Where can we get in contact with you at? Websites, Instagram, Twitter?
Rain of Z official on Instagram, um, Facebook, Rain of Z, www.rainofz.com, and yeah, that's our mains. We're also on Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube as well. So